Control what you say and start growing in the silence. You talk a lot and may not even realize how much it slows you down. Every time you blurt out an opinion without thinking, make a promise you don't know if you'll keep, or take it out on the wrong person, you're simply wearing yourself down. The words that could help you end up making you weaker. Growing up requires silence. Anyone who has learned this knows that the less you say, the more you learn, and the more you learn, the more you grow. More than 2,000 years ago, the Stoics discovered this because silence is not weakness. In fact, it is the easiest way to store energy and use it in the right place. I'll show you how taking control of what you say can change your life, how this can help you avoid arguments, earn the respect of others, and truly grow. I'm going to give you 8 practical tips based on the wisdom of the Stoics to help you talk less, do more, and show your worth without having to force yourself. But first, let me tell you a story to explain it better. Andrei worked in a carpentry shop. He was good at what he did, but he had one habit that only got in his way. He talked too much. He told everyone about his plans, complained about his boss's decisions, and expressed his opinions on things he didn't know very well. He thought that talking too much was a sign of intelligence, importance, and respect. Until one day, his grandfather, a simple but very wise man, appeared in the workshop. He sat in a corner and stayed there and watched for a long time. Before he left, he took Andrei aside and said, "My son, good wood doesn't make any noise when it grows." Andrei laughed without really understanding it. Then the grandfather continued, "You are an engaging young man, but you waste your energy talking too much. Every tree that grows strong does so silently. People who talk a lot are generally trying to convince themselves or others." These words stuck in Andrei's head. He realized that talking less and doing more made the difference. He stopped talking about what he hadn't even done yet and instead focused on work. Then he realized it. When you talk less, your actions begin to speak for you. When you stop talking about what you want to do, you have more energy to actually make it happen. Silence is not weakness, but focus, control, and change. Now I'll show you how to put this into practice in a simple and real way. How to use silence to your advantage to stop wasting energy, strengthen your mind, and build something real without having to convince anyone. Strategy 1. Control your emotions before you speak. Imagine standing in line at a store, looking at the clock, and worried that you might miss an appointment. Suddenly, someone behind you starts complaining loudly, saying annoying things and saying, "If you feel uncomfortable, switch places with me." Your heart starts beating faster. Your mind is already thinking of an answer in the same tone. But instead of answering, you take a deep breath, suppress the urge to respond, and decide to remain silent. When you leave there, you realize that it wasn't what you said that made the difference that day. That's what you didn't want to say. This does not mean avoiding discussions out of fear or uncertainty. It is a conscious decision not to react impulsively and not to get carried away by unnecessary emotions. How often do fights or arguments break out in situations like this just because someone lost their temper over something small? A moment of anger can turn a normal day into a nightmare, because when anger takes over, she simply reacts without thinking about the consequences. It's as if someone accidentally spilled coffee on you and you spontaneously threw it back. An immediate response will only spread more chaos, pain, and confusion. A small problem that could be solved calmly turns into a major conflict. Think about the discussions you have had. How often have you thought after an argument, "I didn't have to say that"? Because the problem is almost never what you say. The problem lies in the tone, the wrong moment, or the lack of control that dominates you without you realizing it. Seneca, a very wise philosopher, said that nothing is more detrimental to our peace of mind than anger. And he was right. Because when anger dominates, it doesn't think, it just attacks. Talking in the heat of the moment is like trying to put out a fire by throwing gasoline. It looks like you're acting out, but it's just making the situation worse. The real solution is to never act rashly. She demands calm. What kills anger isn't reacting faster. It's about not inflaming the fight. Do you know the family group on your cell phone? Someone is twisting what you said and embarrassing you in front of everyone. That makes you want to answer right away, doesn't it? But if you wait a little, if you take time to think before you react, you will find that many conflicts resolve themselves if not fueled. Your power lies in that moment of pause, that short space of time between what happened and what you want to do. The quieter you enjoy this space, the harder it is for others to upset you. Want a simple exercise? Before you speak, pause and ask yourself, does this really have anything to do with what happened now, or is it something I have never sorted out within myself? Often, the anger you feel is not because of the situation, but rather because of something old that you have never resolved. If you're still angry, write it down. But don't send it. Put everything on your phone or on paper and save it. After a while, you will read it and realize what was just anger and what was really important. Controlling your emotions before speaking does not mean remaining silent forever. It means understanding that true power lies in deciding when and how you use your voice. Remember, silence is like armor that protects you from acting spontaneously, and only those who know how to control themselves are truly free. Strategy 2. Resist. Resistance is not just about standing firm when things get difficult. It's about learning to control the urge to speak, even though remaining silent is the wisest choice. It's about knowing how to resist the urge to explain everything, justify your actions, or respond to every provocation that comes your way. This requires not only physical strength, but also clarity of thought, patience, and willpower. Cato the Younger understood this better than anyone. In Rome, where power was gained through grandiose speeches and public displays of power, Cato did the opposite. He knew that too much talking gave power to those who didn't deserve it. Cato was known for his integrity and discipline. He only spoke when necessary, and only when he had something really important to say. When they tried to provoke him or elicit statements from him that he didn't think needed to be said, he simply didn't respond. He chose silence as everyone waited for an answer. For Cato, resistance meant refusing to give explanations to those who did not deserve to hear them. It was about maintaining control over your words rather than delivering them impulsively. While others tried to please the public with empty speeches and endless explanations, Cato remained true to his principles without having to constantly justify himself. Now think about your own life. Imagine you're walking down the street and someone says they like your outfit. What a beautiful shirt! And instead of just saying thank you, you feel the need to tell them where you bought it, how much it cost, why you chose that color, and whether it was on sale, all without the person asking. This is a simple example, but it happens often, both in small situations and larger moments in life. We feel the need to justify our decisions and provide details that no one has asked for, as if our acceptance depends on convincing others that our actions are valid. This impulse to explain yourself occurs in many areas of life. When you start something new, you want to convince others that it's a good idea. When you decide to change a habit, you feel the need to explain why this change is important. If you make a different choice, try to defend yourself against any criticism. But the more you try to justify yourself, the more you move away from what's really important. True progress doesn't need speeches. This happens through action and persisting in what you believe. The more you try to convince others, the more room you give to doubts that invade your own mind. Resisting means choosing silence when you feel the need to justify yourself. It's about recognizing that not every criticism needs an answer. Not every question requires a detailed explanation, and not every opinion should be taken into account. You don't have to justify your plans to those who don't understand them, nor your decisions to those who have never followed your path. The people who really matter will understand without you having to waste energy explaining. Resistance means that you stop justifying yourself to the world and start listening to yourself more. The more you try to explain what you do, the more power you give to those who aren't really interested in understanding it. And when someone tries to question your decisions or ask for explanations that don't make sense, remember, Cato, the power of silence lies in protecting what is valuable without having to announce, explain, or defend it. You don't have to explain your vision to people who have never tried to see what you see. And if you like the content, consider becoming a member of the channel. Not only do you help the channel, but you also have exclusive content. Click on the link in the description and become a member now. Back to content. Strategy 3. Don't talk to anyone about your weaknesses. Would you leave the door of your house open with a sign that says, "Come in and take what you want"? Probably not, but that's exactly what we do when we tell people about our weaknesses who shouldn't know about them. Not every person who seems to want to help actually cares. And the more you share your weaknesses with those who don't deserve to know about them, the more vulnerable you become. Think about Lucas. He is a young man who has a steady job but dreams of teaching English online. However, he encounters many obstacles. One day he feels discouraged and decides to reach out to a colleague who seems friendly but whom he barely knows. Lucas talks about his insecurities, his fear of failure, the mistakes he's made, and how much that demotivates him. The colleague listens to everything carefully and seems to care. But weeks later, Lucas discovers that the same colleague used this information to talk badly about him behind his back and pass on his weaknesses to other colleagues. What was an outburst became gossip. What Lucas had shared as pain became a weapon in the hands of someone who didn't think twice before using it against him. This is how it happens. Your weaknesses are like keys that protect what matters most to you. If you give these keys to someone who doesn't know how to care for them, you risk losing what you hold most dear. Not everyone deserves to know their weaknesses, especially those who have never proven themselves trustworthy. Confusing education with loyalty is a mistake that can have high costs. Before trusting anything important, observe the person's behavior, not just the moment. Who is truly loyal to others? Who shows empathy without expecting anything in return? Trust does not come from sympathy, but from character. Marco Aurelio, a great thinker, said that if you share a secret with someone who doesn't deserve it, it is only your fault. Many people forget that. It's easy to want to share how we're feeling with others, especially when we're at a vulnerable time. But not every shoulder that offers support is actually willing to help. Do you want to know if someone is trustworthy? Start with something small. Share something unimportant and see what happens. When the story comes back to you from someone else's mouth, you already know what kind of person is in front of you. But the problem is not only the betrayal of others, but also the impact it has on you. The more you expose your weaknesses, the more insecure you become. And the more insecure you become, the harder it is to believe in your own strength. Remember, protecting your weaknesses doesn't mean being distant or cold. It means being smart. It means understanding that silence does not limit you, but protects you. If you need to vent, choose the person carefully. Reaching out to the wrong person is like pouring water into a leaky well. It won't bring you any relief, it will just make you emptier. True strength lies not in telling everyone everything, but in knowing when and to whom to open your heart. It's not about living alone. It's about understanding that not everyone deserves to know what hurts you. Trust is not measured by the number of words, but by what the person does with what you have shared. And if someone doesn't deserve your silence, they don't deserve your truth. Remember, not every truth needs to be told and not every pain needs to be shared. Strategy 4. Listen more. Talk less. The problem is that in many conversations, no one really listens. People are just waiting for their turn. They already have answers in mind before they even understand what the other person is saying. That's not listening. That's just reacting automatically. And if you react without thinking, you learn nothing. Real listening means paying attention to what is happening. It's about understanding more than just the words. It means paying attention to tone of voice, gestures, and even what wasn't said. When you learn to really listen, you become smarter, more intelligent, and gain more respect. Imagine an everyday situation, such as a work meeting. There's always someone interrupting others, talking non-stop, trying to seem important. What is happening? She talks so much that no one wants to hear anymore and her words end up losing their value. Now think about someone who listens first in a meeting. Observe, think a little, and only speak when you really have something important to say. This person is listened to more and more because silence creates an expectation. Your words have more power when they are not wasted. Epictetus, a great philosopher, said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason." He was right, because true knowledge comes from observation and not from hasty speech. When you talk less, you learn more, and as you learn more, you grow more. Would you like to see an example of this? Think of someone trying to sell something. Most people immediately start talking and try to convince the customer with a pre-written speech, but the smart salesperson does it differently. He listens first, asks what the customer needs, understands the problem, and only then offers the solution. This seller understands that listening is like opening a map before embarking on the journey. Anyone who speaks without first listening is in the dark. Learning to listen is like sharpening a tool. The more you practice, the better you will become. Because those who really listen notice things that others don't, understand the details, and look beyond the obvious. And the most important thing, if you listen more and speak less, you learn to control your own ego. The need to always be right is why most people waste energy trying to prove what they already know. Listening is a rare skill, and that is why those who know how to listen stand out. In a world where everyone wants to be heard, those who know how to listen are essential. So the next time you have a conversation, do a simple test. Observe more, listen more, and talk less. You will find that the less you say, the more important your words are. Remember, silence transforms ordinary words into something truly audible. Strategy 5. Use the power of silence. Few tools have as much impact on our minds and well-being as silence. However, learning to deal with it effectively is not just about staying calm. It's not about remaining silent out of fear, submission, or a simple lack of opinion. The true power of silence lies in using it as a space for deep reflection and inner strength. Unlike a meaningless pause, silence can be a true personal sanctuary, a place where you can reconnect with your being, away from distractions and external pressures. In silence, you can hear your own voice and hear what your mind really needs to express. Imagine silence as an empty space where there is no confusion, where the only sound is the rhythm of your own thoughts, a place where ideas organize themselves and feelings find peace. There is no rush, no judgment, just space to be. When you choose to silence yourself, the goal is not to impress others or manipulate the situation to gain an advantage. Silence is a choice for personal empowerment. It is a way to stand firm in the face of external storms and to hear more clearly what is really going on in your heart and mind. In silence, ideas mature and take shape. Fears that seemed huge lose their power, and goals that were previously nebulous begin to become clearer and more achievable. For example, if you decide to avoid an unnecessary argument, the true power of silence is not staying silent to appear superior or to avoid confrontation. True power lies in recognizing that this argument or momentary stress is not worth your time or energy. By remaining calm, you protect your peace, concentration, and mental calm. You choose where to focus your attention, and in a noisy, busy world, that choice is an act of resistance. Silence therefore acts as a protective shield that protects what is essential, your inner peace. Now think about how important it is to listen without rushing. We are often tempted to react immediately, to justify our words, or to try to explain everything we are thinking. However, by allowing yourself not to react immediately, you create space for silence to reveal what is truly important. This could be a revelation. You begin to realize that you don't have to say everything you think, but that your words can be more powerful if they are used more consciously and intentionally. As the philosopher Seneca said, silence is a sacred space. Those who learn to use it can access answers and insights that the noise of everyday life could never reveal. Now let's put this into practice. When faced with a challenge or problem, resist the temptation to react or act immediately. Allow yourself a moment of silence. Not to plan a perfect answer, but simply to feel what you really want to communicate, or even to question whether it is necessary to say something. In this little pause, in this moment of pause, the true power of silence is revealed. It is not a strategy to appear wise or superior, but an opportunity to strengthen yourself internally, mature your ideas, and prepare yourself to make clearer and wiser decisions. So silence is not empty, as we often think. It is a space full of presence. It is full of clarity and purpose, and offers us the chance to grow and strengthen ourselves, without the rush and without the external pressure that constantly requires quick reactions. When you learn to use silence consciously, you enter a state of greater presence and authenticity. As a result, you develop a calmer, more centered mind and are better able to deal with adversity in a more balanced and effective manner. But there is something important to understand. If you have been trying to get out of your comfort zone and learn more for a long time, but you still haven't succeeded, there may be something you are not aware of. I know what it could be. It's fear. Fear is like a snake that comes silently and affects you without you noticing. It makes you feel bad for days, months, and even years. Living like that is like being sick all the time. But I know a solution. Stoic philosophers and modern psychology have a way of eliminating this. I myself managed to heal myself from this fear. I made a video explaining how to get rid of this evil, and it is in the first comment. Click the link in the first comment and start healing that feeling of anxiety. Strategy 6. Protect your plans. How many times have you had an incredible idea, and when you told someone about it, you felt your energy drain away? Sometimes the person doesn't even have to say anything. All it takes is one strange look, a change of subject, or a cold, cool good luck, and you start to doubt yourself. It's like weakening your own dream by telling something that is still developing. Their plans are like newly planted seeds, initially too delicate to face the world. It's like trying to plant a seed in the middle of the street. Any step, wind, or storm can cause it to be lost before it grows. Would you like to see an example? Imagine a woman named Clara. She dreams of opening a home-baked cake business, something she loves to do. Clara is enthusiastic and shares the idea with friends, colleagues, and family, and hopes for help and advice. But every time she shares her plans, someone comes up with a different suggestion. A friend says, "Cake is very common. What makes money these days are sophisticated cakes." Clara starts thinking about changing the focus. Then another relative says, "What everyone wants now is gourmet brigadeiros." And she starts thinking about it too. Then someone else says, "These days healthy sweets are trendy, you should bake healthy cakes." Clara, trying to please everyone, changes her mind again. The result? Clara spends months changing her plan and trying to follow the opinions of people who often don't even know what really works in the market or understand what she wants to do. She ends up wasting her energy, and her ideas become unfocused without really growing. And all because she shared her plans too early and allowed other people's opinions to interfere with something that was still developing. And so many plans die before they become reality, not for lack of skill or effort, but because they were exposed to too much, too soon. When you tell something that is still in its infancy, you allow other people to express their opinions, judge, and even apply their own insecurities to what you are trying to do. Marcus Aurelius, a great thinker, wrote, "Do things without expecting recognition. In other words, do it first and talk later. If you talk too much before acting, you end up wasting energy trying to convince others of something you haven't yet proven yourself." Protecting your plans does not mean hiding what you want to do, but rather letting them grow in silence, where they are safe from opinions and criticism that could weaken them. Because not everyone who hears your plans supports you. Advice often comes from those who have never tried to achieve what you want to achieve. So be smart. Keep what is important to you. Work in silence, because in silence, things truly grow. And when you finally show what you've done, let it go, because your work speaks for itself. The action will have been so strong that words will be unnecessary. The truth is simple. What is real does not need to be announced. It just needs to be done. Strategy 7. Say less than you think. Not everything that comes to mind needs to be said. Controlling what you say is one of the most powerful habits you can develop. Every word you speak is energy you expend, and that energy can be much more useful if you act practically. Think about how many times you have responded without thinking, driven by anger or pride, and then spent hours wondering why you didn't stay silent. Words once spoken do not come back. Therefore, learning to remain silent can be your greatest protection. Seneca, a great Stoic philosopher, said, "We often regret what we say, but rarely what we remain silent about." And that is completely true. When you speak without thinking, you become vulnerable. But if you shut up and think, you will become stronger. Sometimes we just need 2 extra seconds of silence. Anger and pride make our tongues run faster than expected. Before you answer, take a breath, pause for a moment and ask yourself, is it worth talking now? Will this help or just make the situation worse? If the answer is no, it is better to remain silent. Silence is one of the best defenses you can use, And when it comes to your plans, keep them to yourself. Not everything has to be told to others. Have you ever met someone who keeps saying they are going to change their life, but nothing changes? Like that co-worker who promises to go on a diet or quit his job every Monday, but says the same thing the next week and does nothing. Talking creates the feeling that we have already done something, but in reality, we have not done anything. Marcus Aurelius said, "Let your actions speak for you." And he was right. Talking about what you want to do is like wasting gas staying in the same place. What really counts are actions, not words. Another important point is to avoid discussions that lead nowhere. The truth is that you will never convince someone who doesn't want to be convinced. The more you insist, the more energy you lose. It's like trying to dry the floor with the faucet running. The best argument is often not to insist, because while the other person is wasting words, you are saving energy. Remember, if you talk too much, you end up giving yourself away without even realizing it. During important conversations like job interviews or work meetings, those who speak less tend to be heard more. Because silence shows that you think before you act. It shows that you know the difference between speaking because you have to and speaking out of vanity. Nowadays, everyone wants to have the last word, talk about everything, and give their opinion on everything. But that is not wisdom. Wisdom is knowing when to keep your mouth shut. It means understanding that the value of your voice increases when you learn to use it purposefully. Talking less doesn't mean being afraid to express yourself. It means understanding that what matters is not the volume of your voice, but what you say and how you say it. It means knowing that true respect comes not from insisting, but from knowing how to listen and act. If you want to be more respected, calm, and strategic, talk less than you think. Use silence as a filter, because what is really worth saying is always said at the right time. Strategy 8. Turn down the noise inside you. To control what you say, you must learn to reduce the noise in your head. Because before a word leaves your mouth, it is influenced by the thoughts you entertain. And if those thoughts are confusing, rushed, or negative, it will eventually leak out. Imagine a dam full of cracks. If the pressure is constant and there is no control, the water will find a way to escape. The same goes for your thoughts. When you accumulate silent criticism, frustration, and repetitive judgments, these thoughts come out in the form of impulsive and harmful words. Inner noise consists of unnecessary and repetitive thoughts, automatic judgments, and worries that you give free rein to. It's like having a radio on all the time, tuned to a bad station and playing the same annoying song over and over again. And when that inner noise builds up, it's impossible to maintain the silence you want to convey to the world. The Stoics understood that true peace comes not only from controlling what you say, but also what you think. What you say is just a reflection of what you nurture within yourself. When you get into the habit of judging everything you see, silently criticizing other people's actions, and mentally complaining about every little mistake, you're just adding to the noise. And that noise turns into words that end up coming out even though you don't want to say them. Seneca said that nothing is more important to a person than being able to control his own mind. Would you like a practical example? Think about the last time you complained about something you couldn't change. This complaint didn't start with words, but with a repetitive thought that you let grow until it came out of your mouth. And what solved that? Nothing. This only made the noise even greater. Start noticing when your mind is full of criticism, complaints, or judgment. Ask yourself, is this useful? Or is it just noise? If it doesn't bring clarity, peace, or growth, let it go. Real control over what you say begins with eliminating the inner noise. Because what you think is what you become. And what you become is what you express. When you learn to quiet your mind, external silence becomes natural. And this silence is not empty. He is full of presence, clarity, and determination. Remember that controlling what you say begins with silencing what shouldn't even be thought.